But we should be back now. Interesting,
Alright.
at least. Okay. Fantastic. Sorry about that. That was weird. That was strange. That's okay. I think we are good now. And speaking of epic failures and everything dying, let's talk about what happened last time on Siege of the Empire.
Yeah.
So, last time on Siege, there were some interesting role-playing moments involving one particularly hardline conversation with Morella and some interesting, weird, crazy graveyard fae religion bullshit going on. There was crazy underground temple lizardmen with some power of some god's lance that was given to
Cree.
to Kree. And Jesus Christ, you fucking... Thank you. Sorry about that. And that was... I mean, that seems to be the gist of what happened originally. And then the party had met up with the armies, finally. Quite a bit closer to Altdorf than they originally expected. Having presented yourself, and it's actually 2 more days. Boop. Having presented yourself to Lord Anthony Cahill, who is the de facto leader of this particular army, you began to come up with a strategy of how to proceed northern, because he had stated that there was forces in the forests that surround this area, also known as the Drakewald Forest, of the undead and chaos and demons and all other fun things. It's not the vast hordes that have been spoke of, but there are pockets of resistance. And we also discovered that the town of Bastal had been razed. And that the group had encountered these undead creatures a contingent of scouts from Lord Cahill's men had encountered these undead entities in the forest, but they were quick and fast moving. They weren't like zombies or skeletons or anything. They were not very great at describing it, but they suffered a minor skirmish with this group of preliminary scouts or whatever they might be. Took some minor casualties and then retreated back, and then the army decided to take up camp here in the Tri-Town area, in between Brockel, Guthagul, and Kupfengroup. There we go. And we're Kupfengroup. Yeah, and essentially they were devising a plan of attack to begin to take back the lands on their way to Mindenheim. For the tumultuous final battle, obviously. And that's kind of where enter party members. Now, as I said last week, I have a system that we're going to use that is going to be somewhat of a mix between what you know about combat in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and then also added with some narrative aspects. Inspired a lot by any who might know it of the King Arthur Pendragon game and how that handles mass combat, where essentially it uses unit types against each other, and then those unit types will fight, and time is represented a little bit differently, and they'll take casualties, and etc., etc. Inspired by that format, but adapted to the rules of Dungeons & Dragons. So, the very final scene that we had witnessed was Kree at the head of this contingent of lizardmen forces. Quite a vast array of them, in fact. If I go here to my notes, there's about 200 cavalry and about 400 soldiers in tow. in the contingent that he brought, and it brings up the total number of units to probably just over 7,000 strong here in this valley area that you guys reside in. So for those of you that may not know a whole lot about how medieval armies work and how they traveled and how they supplied themselves, this is actually a thing that I've been doing a lot of research on to make it so that I can make this the most authentic it could possibly be. So there's essentially 3 different things that the army needs, or the army, like the 3 different aspects of the army that matter, right? There is supplies, which include weapons, armor, food, horses, water, that kind of thing. Anything to keep people going physically. There is morale, and morale goes up and down based on different things, right? Based on wins or losses in skirmishes, based on stagnation of the army can cause a loss of morale. If you're stuck in the same area for so long, people get complacent and morale begins to go down. And also inspirations from lords and ladies in the military or in the hierarchy. Great heroes or deeds that occur will inspire morale, obviously. Like a heroic final stand, killing twice as amount of units as was overtaken, can turn a loss into a boost for morale. And then the third thing that is really important is information. Information is really, really important to the forces working with a large-scale military like this in the medieval times. And that can range anywhere from lay of the land, enemies faced. It could, have to do with internal strife as well, like conflicting reports might be an example of poor information or bad information. One scouting company goes out and says there's this, another scouting company goes out and says there's this. Is one of the companies lying? Did they see different things, or are both things out there? And so kind of deciphering that is the third part of the triangle to how this all works here. And so I tell you all that to tell you this, that what I've been talking about the past couple of weeks with you guys in particular is how you guys can affect the overall scheme as an individual player. That's to give you some ideas. A couple of examples of how you can affect these things outside of like an actual battle or actual things going on. Like you could negotiate with the townsfolk to provide more supplies, or you could, lead a scouting party and go find some information about some things. You could, put your own hand at work making equipment if you have some sort of skill at doing so. So those are the things that, you could throw a party, right? You could have like a banquet. If you have some leftover supplies, you could have a banquet and boost the men's morales to some degree, or men and women, obviously. So those are the kind of things that you can do outside of a battle. And I'm just throwing ideas out there because I want you guys to be fully prepared to have ideas to come up with, of things to do. So, also last time I revealed this particular map right here. And this particular map has a couple of things on it. So the large knightly figure right here is representative of the army's position at this time. Not necessarily you guys or your positioning, but the army's position at this time. The town of Bastal is representative of, with the red circle, by having been razed to the ground, which always confused me as to why they said that, but I don't know, English is stupid. Obviously it's spelled differently, but still. And then we also know that Middleweg and Delbers are currently fine. Nothing is wrong with them, and they are the 2 closest towns to the north. And then this darker green circle over here is representative of an area in which there was an encounter with forces, like enemy forces. So how this is going to work is, as you guys develop plans or as you guys move forward, I'm going to begin adding things to this map to show kind of like our own war map. So that we can have a visual representation of the information that you guys have and what's going on, and everything will be awesome about that. Sound great? Good.
Mm-hmm.
Glad everybody's in agreement.
Yes.
But firstly, I think the first scene we perhaps need to see from a narrative aspect is, Morella, you said you rode out to meet with Kree when he arrived.
Of course.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's the scene I want to see first. With there's Kree and Daniela and Aelin and Hannibal are all riding at the front of this large pack of people, and you ride up to approach. Arkady, do you go with him, or Farron, do you go with him, or?
I think Arkady would like to know what's happened with his allies, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, you and your all-terrain pony ride alongside Morella. That's just the greatest. I can't get that picture out of my head. It's just so fantastic. So you ride out with Morella, and Farron, you ride out with Morella as well. Mel is notoriously absent from this particular adventure, but Arkady, the Spear Maidens, are with you, latched to your side as they do in this particular instance. So, as you guys approach Kree, you see them approaching on their horses, and what do you say? Who speaks first in this instance?
Hey.
Definitely Kree would. He would call out to them, just, "Oh, incoming reinforcements."
Yeah, and in response, there's a very jovial but sarcastic tone that comes from Morella as she says, "I can see that, and you're a bit late.
We had some shit to get done."
I can."
Yeah, I think Daniela also says, oh, I totally forgot. Yes. Petrov, would you like to tell us what you got at level 10?
I don't want to derail the scene.
Okay. Daniela says, she leans over to you, Aelin, and she says, she knows it takes a while to form so many, and, like, she searches for a word, and she turns around, she says, soldiers, right?
She is, impatient at best. I think she knows how long it takes.
I think she kind of, like, nods her head and she says, these past few weeks must have been trying.
Helen just kind of looks at her and just nods her head. Not more trying than anything else.
Yeah, totally. And so with that, you guys probably, you grasp arms and do a firm shake.
I think Morella goes for a handshake, but she just instead tries to hug Kree.
So, Kree, do you do like the arms to the side, like looking around, like this is weird? I don't know what's going on right now, or
is Morella on horseback right now?
Yeah, no, she would have gotten off.
Okay, yeah. I would definitely back up and not hide behind Aelin and her horse, but hide behind Aelin and her horse.
Okay. And as this awkwardness is playing out, the rest of you see approaching as well, on a tall brown, clearly
stallion.
very built. Actually, it's a mare, but clearly a horse that is bred from a very rich stock. That has a pendant kind of flying underneath its saddle, and you can see the crest of Lord Cahill, and atop it obviously is Lord Cahill himself, surrounded by the members of the council, and also Lady Luftberg, who you deposited here. Yeah. And they come riding up with a couple of the Red Hand guardsmen as well, or not Red Hand, what are they called? Knight's Griffin guardsmen. And as they approach, you can see Lord Cahill evaluates the entire scene with a large smile upon his face, and he says, Welcome, one and all. It is great to see that our allies, the Lizardmen, have come to our aid. Pray tell, who leads this fine company of warriors?
Yeah, and Marilla just simply like gestures over to Kree. I was like, "Do not be shy now, Kree."
Kree steps forward very plainly in Lord Cahill's sight. I have brought this army to help render these enemy forces incompetent.
And I
They
think
shall be brought before us.
he nods heartily, and with a smile he says, yes, this is good. We will certainly win the day with this reinforcements. It will be an honor to fight at your side. I'm sorry, I did not catch your name.
I am Kree, Chotek's chosen.
Kree,
It's a pleasure to
Chotek's
meet you.
chosen. It will be of my honor to ride beside you in battle.
And Kree gives out a loud, sharp whistle, and Noct comes running over.
Yeah.
Right. Indeed.
Yeah, and you can see there's like a glimmer in Lord Cahill's eyes as he observes the large steed, and you see him. He kind of like pats the neck of his mare, who maybe did like a little stomp, not like a nervous stomp, but like a kind of a posturing thing. He like pats her neck and he says, "There. It is friendly, I assume."
Noct, my friend here, is about as friendly as they get. Isn't that right, buddy?
Noct is like scratching the back of his neck with his back talon and like looks up, and then goes straight up like he's supposed to be, doing
He's
proper
supposed to
things
be.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of being basically a puppy.
Great. I love you, Noct.
Yeah, and so there's a bunch of cheering and rejoicing, and the Lord Cahill says he greets the rest of you at this juncture, and he says, it is wonderful to see you all again, or some of you for the first time. And now we shall retire, for I believe that some food in our bellies and the taste of wine on our lips will satisfy this elation we are now feeling for being so reinforced. Come one and all, let us eat. And he kind of spurs his horse and turns it around, and they trot off back down to the encampment.
Pretty joyous guy for being in a war.
It is better than being somber.
Remember the second tenant, morale.
Yep.
Kree turns to his forces and loudly speaks up. Settle in, boys! The fun's about to start!
Yeah, and there's a bunch of banging spears on shields and raising axes over the head and etc. And you begin to march your men down into the valley and arrange them in their own little, I assume, set of tents or whatever provisions they may have for encamping. And yeah.
As like Morella like watches this happen, she walks to Kree and she's like, "There will be a talk between us then. Much later, of course, but
Whatever you wish, Lady Morella.
And what exactly do you need to talk about?
well, strategy."
Yes, strategy. Speaking of which, given the significant boon we have gained here with these fine soldiers, it may be of relevance to you and to your place within the army for people to know that you are the one who won the alliance with Kree, yes?
Arcadia's right in this one, Morella. You might want to take advantage of this.
Without a doubt.
Do you have any plans?
Well, I thought I'd just simply tell all the soldiers individually that, oh hey, I've won the love of Kree. But I think that's too blatant. Obviously, I was thinking that perhaps you, Petrov, would come up with something more elaborate, such as perhaps, and I look over at Farron, I'm like, perhaps a jovial man is up for the task.
This is possibly the best political decision I have seen you make since we met. Well done. He offers a hand to shake.
And she grins and she's like, oh, come now, Petrov. Perhaps maybe I was just hiding all of my political intrigue.
We have
You laugh. Arcadi laughs. Noct laughs. The trees laugh.
Kill the trees.
Hannibal does
We killed
not
the
laugh.
trees. It was a good day.
It was a good day. But, and, yeah, and she's like, well, there has been a lot on my mind.
Indeed.
So, but yes, let us be off then. And
So-
she starts walking off.
Yeah, the group of you descend. So, night is falling on the day, and this is more important than it might seem to be, but where would you all position yourselves within the ranks for, like, where you're living?
We're
And
spellcasters.
let me give you a rundown. I'm gonna give you a rundown now of the different, like, types of units or the different people that are here amalgamated in this army. There are obviously a bunch of soldiers, a bunch of foot soldiers. Probably about 1,700 or so foot soldiers. They make up kind of the bulk of, or the largest, like, contingent. There are probably about equivalent amount of militia, and I distinctly differentiate between the two because they're obviously not trained soldiers. They are men and women who have been pulled from their homes, right, to go defend the land.
Militia.
There is a fair amount of warhounds in this army as well. Warhounds are quite commonly used for war purposes here in the Empire. They're large mastiffs, mostly, but also probably some variations of German Shepherds and other large hunting dogs that you might come across. Mostly they're used as scouts, but they can also be used kind of as a light cavalry unit as well in times of need. Speaking of cavalry, there's also a fairly large contingent of cavalry, probably a bit more than the lizardmen that have shown up, and they all ride, war horses and have generally use spears or lances in combat. There are a bunch of archers and actual scouts as well, kind of the loners that patrol the outskirts of camp and probably through the forest at night and during the day to discover what they can discover. There obviously is a large priest of all different denominations, mostly Sigmar, but all other denominations that would show up here as well. Probably quite a few priests of Moor actually exist in the army. This is kind of their thing. There are a smaller group of a couple of very specialized units. There are about 100 knights that exist in the army, and they are like plate wearer with their war horses have barding, and they generally are kind of the shot. Yeah, they're the shot cavalry that exist. There are some veteran soldiers that kind of make up the leaders of all the different squads and platoons of regular soldiers and militia. There are some veteran archers who wield giant longbows and provide range support. And there is one final group of individuals, probably about 400 or so, that stand out, I think, from the rest because they don't appear to be... They're probably offset a little bit from the rest of the group. They appear to be mercenaries. Swords for hire, essentially. Ones that are kind of outside of the militia, but are trained. Probably bounty hunters as well in there. Those type of a bit more unsavory folk, perhaps. And that's kind of the breakdown of what you guys have as far as units that exist here.
So there aren't really any arcane casters.
No, it doesn't appear so. Not on the surface, at least. The orders of magic are probably working alone, and by that I mean like they're probably doing their own tasks and either feeding information to the army, or they are still coordinating like a plan, right? Because the orders of magic are one of the few entities in the Empire that don't answer directly to the Emperor. Obviously, if they do something to defy the Emperor, they would be crushed, but they're also kind of allowed to operate autonomously in most regards.
What platoon would have the highest amount of them?
There are probably a couple scattered throughout. There is definitely a representative from most of the major orders of magic here. And just as a reminder, if we look at I think it's the Altdorf one where I have them listed. There's the Amber Order, Amethyst Order, Bright Order, Celestial Order, Gold Order, Gray Order, Jade Order, and Light Order. Ones that would 100% be here, the Celestial Order, the Light Order, and the Bright Order, all three of those are actually involved with the priests and stuff that are here. They all have very heavy ties to religion. Oh, and the Jade Order as well. They all have very heavy ties to religion, and so they would kind of be mixed in with that. The Gold Order is primarily dwarves, and they probably don't have a representative on scene right now. The Gray Order, just because as they are, probably don't have a visible member here, but there is a less than there is a greater than 90% chance that their representative is somewhere in the camp. The Amber Order is so the Amber Order also consists of things of like rangers and druids and that kind of thing. So they're mixed in with the scouts and with the archer companies and stuff like that. Also with the warhounds. And then the Amethyst Order actually is also tied to the priests, because the Amethyst Order is made up of a lot of priests of Moor. Priests of Moor basically are the only ones that make up that order, to be fair.
Okay.
So mostly mixed within the priests. I have them written down here as priests, but there are probably some arcane casters that exist within those.
And
orders.
The most heavy, like, combat arcane casters would be in... Considering that priests kind of fit, like, also in combat?
Yeah, any priest of Sigmar is built for combat. They don't, like, they actually thrive in it.
Okay, so, like, it could be said that most of the combat arcane casters would also be in the priest's camp.
Yeah,
All
totally.
Right. Cool, I'm going there.
Okay, so you're going to bunk up with them. Yep, I think that's fine. What about everybody else, based on the things that I've mentioned? There's also probably, to note as well, there's also probably a noble ring of tents where all of the council members and all of the, like, actual knights that hold lands probably reside. They probably reside in kind of the central area of the tent structure. So that's also, like, an option. So basically, breaking it down, there's, like, the scouts, the everyday men, the mercenaries, the nobles, and the lizardmen, obviously. And that's kind of it.
Yeah. I think Morella would be the in-between the nobles and, like, the regular day men. So she wouldn't be like, she floats, essentially, between those two sections a lot.
Okay, cool.
So, like, she's not like, oh, hey, I'm always by this area. It's more of she floats in between both the areas. And
yeah, so you're probably mostly with where, like, the knights and veterans stay.
Yeah, but she does try to see the common, like, a lot of the common soldiers and see...
Yeah,
like,
I mean, like, the common soldiers are kind of varied in between those sections as well, just because that's their direct leadership as well.
Yeah.
So you can be
kind of
there as well. Yep,
Mhm.
totally.
Yeah. She hangs around that type of crowd, as opposed to, like, just direct nobles or direct...
What about you, Farron? Are you a social butterfly?
I mean, when am I not?
I can name a few times.
But yeah, so checking in with everyone, maybe playing a merry tune at each of the locations, but mainly spend my time with the scouting regiments.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so you hang out with the rangers and scouts and the archer kind of contingents, the ones that probably aren't going to be like on the ground fighting so much as like gathering information and stuff like that, or providing like support roles to the actual foot soldiers.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What about you? Well, I think we can assume we know where Brian is hanging out at.
Not true.
Okay, where would you go, Kree?
I actually have a job to do, a very specific one. Kree needs to integrate these lizardmen into the army.
Correct.
Just having them being a separate unit isn't gonna do a whole lot.
Correct.
So, integrate some of the skinks into the scouting party. They know the land a lot better. Integrate some of the cavalry together. They're heavier cavalry. Just that type of thing. That's how Kree spends a lot of his time, and that's not going to be a very quick process.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
Do you think that Kree perhaps asked others to assist him in this manner?
Actually, he would probably ask more of... he wouldn't ask Morella. But
I know that. I'm already getting that vibe pretty well.
He would definitely ask for Aylin's assistance in getting some of the skink priests and things like that into the priest area. Because, religions don't mix very well.
Mm-mm.
And he might ask for... Oh god, I'm so bad with names. He would ask for Farron's assistance with introducing the scouting parties together. Because just being a lizardman himself wouldn't go too well.
Yeah, and so I think that we can deal with a lot of that post figuring out kind of where everybody is, because there's going to be some obvious complications that are going to come from that.
And aside from that, I would set up camp with the cavalry.
Okay.
Yeah,
you'd be in with the cavalry so they can tend to the horses and stuff like that, or mounts. Shouldn't even say horses anymore. They're just mounts. Cool, awesome. Aylin.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward, I think.
Oh, you're the one that's pretty straightforward. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, mine's pretty boring. But I think she would just take it up with the priesthood, as it were.
This is actually a thing that I didn't ask you before, and I probably should have, like, way back when. Are you a card-carrying member of the Jade Order? Being the Order of Life in the Orders of Magic? You don't have to be, because you're tied to the church, but...
I don't believe so.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, either way, it would make sense that you were, and it also would make sense that you weren't.
I would say probably not, no.
Okay, cool. Because there are probably priests of Shalia that you may not know that are in the Jade Order. Freelancers. Maybe they don't have a home church, or they are, like, kind of fringe. They don't stay in the larger towns. They're from the smaller towns, but they may be part of the Jade Order, which is the reason why I asked to see about that. What about you, Arkady?
Arkady might move around later, but to start with, he's definitely going to be sticking in the noble ring because he needs to do a quick head count / inventory of who's seriously in charge here, who has investment in this territory that we're currently fighting over, who do people trust, who's going to be causing trouble. Yeah,
absolutely. This is the part where Arkady gets to bust out some of his courtly ways and figure his vast politically adept mind is going to come in very handy here, because the one thing I talked about, the 3 things that an army needs. The one thing I didn't mention is that little kind of like black dot in the center of all that is who's actually running this fucking dumpster fire. And
I want to.
And that's kind of where that whole aspect of things comes in. Cool, awesome.
And since we're on the topic of me,
let's talk about what you got at level 10.
Yeah, so at level 10, rogues get a bonus ability score increase, but my dex is already capped, so instead I swapped it out for the alert feat.
Nice.
So that's +5 to initiative. I cannot be surprised while I'm conscious, and hidden creatures do not get advantage to attack me.
Nice. That's a good feat. I think that is.
He is just paranoid as hell.
I mean, yeah, if that's how you want to play it, that sounds great.
I mean, he's always been a little
We've had
paranoid.
many
But
things to be
I think that
paranoid
if I ever made a character, it would be a monk, and I would take the alert feat, and I would just consider it Spidey sense. That's it.
Yep.
sounds about right.
I just have Spidey sense.
God, that'd be terrifying initiative-wise, though.
I've got +10 initiative.
I know, yeah. Arcadia's +10 now because he's max dex and that +5.
Oh God, you bastard!
Always go first is basically the name of the game there.